looking for my, Jim, do you have my sheet for I? Roll call.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Festerson.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation by Councilmember Rich Ball.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. This past week, a couple things happened that gave me pause, and they've been in the paper or on the news, is when a person who shot and killed a number of people in a church, and the reaction from the people afterwards. And that reaction, I don't know if I could do it, but it was a reaction of forgiveness and being very gracious about it. So I hope as a council we can keep that in mind when we make some of our decisions in the future. Another thing that happened in that same state is when the governor, so I think, took a stand of showing her leadership, because it was a change of her point of view, saying that we need to live in a future and they ought to take a look at removing the Confederate flag from the state capitol. So I think sometimes we are going to make some difficult decisions up here, but I hope we have that inner fortitude and the tenacity to do what we think is right, because of the two examples of the two things that have happened in South Carolina last week. Thank you.
Amen.
City Clerk certifies publication on daily record of the official newspaper on June 19th, Noticeable Pre-Council, and regular City Council meeting June 23rd, 2015. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
This Omaha City Council meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it is not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic devices. Mr. Clerk.
Zoning ordinance on final reading and planning board attachments. Item number 5, ordinance to rezone property located at 1556 Florence Boulevard from R7 medium density multifamily residential district to R4 single family residential district high density. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 5 is today. Proponents, please.
Just to answer any questions, it's a very common rezoning for infill housing, or infill affordable housing to accommodate the setbacks.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other proponents today? Seeing none, are there any opponents today? Public hearing is closed.
Move your approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
5 is passed 7-0. Item 6, ordinance to rezone property located southwest of 18th and Clark Streets from R7 medium density multifamily residential district to R5 urban family residential district. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval.
First one, same
Public item.
situation. So.
Just real quickly. Agenda item number 6, public hearing today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Second. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
6 is passed 7-0. 7 and 8 are one case. 7 is ordinance to rezone property located at 2200 North 24th Street from General Industrial District to Neighborhood Business District. 8 is to amend the boundaries of the area of civic importance overlay district to incorporate in that district the property located at 2200 North 24th Street. A, planning board and the planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items numbers 7 and 8 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
7 and 8 are passed 7-0. Item number 9, ordinance to amend the boundaries of the major commercial corridor overlay district to incorporate into that district the property located at 4921 Q Street. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 9 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
9 is passed 7-0. Item number 10, ordinance to approve a major amendment to a mixed-use development agreement for Cinnamon Creek, second edition, to allow the reconfiguration of the required plaza and open space area with the development and to update the previous existing floor area ratio agreement located northeast of 180th and Harrison Street, providing site development standards. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item 10 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
10 is passed 7-0. Special use permit, item number 11, resolution special use permit, application submitted by SBA Communications Verizon Wireless for a special use permit to allow a broadcast tower with a waiver of height located at 16140 Fort Street is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is document submitted by Stone Creek, and C is documents submitted by the attorney for Stone Creek. And D is a communications from the applicant requesting a 9-week layover to August 15th, 2015, and continue the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to lay over.
I just want to correct, I think it's August 25th.
Oh, I'm sorry, 25th.
Yeah.
Did I say 23rd?
He said
No,
Okay.
it's 9/15.
The appropriate date is August 25th.
August 25th, 9 weeks to August 25th.
It's been moved and seconded. No lights. To lay over until August 25th. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett.
Yes. Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
11 is laid over 9 weeks. Liquor, item number 12 and 13 go together. Treat America Food Service, 3200 South 60th Street, Class C liquor license application, new location, and 13 is a catering for the same applicant, the same location.
Public hearing on agenda items number 12 and 13 of the day. Proponents, please.
Robert Sempak, Trade America Food Services,
Address, please.
3200 South 60th Street, Omaha, 68106.
Thank you. And I'm assuming you're here to answer any questions.
Yes.
Okay. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
12 and 13 are adopted, 7-0. Item number 14, Anderson's Restaurant Group, DBA Rose, 4919 Underwood Avenue, a Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
I'm Carl Anderson. I'm
Agenda
here.
item number, okay, hold on just a second.
Okay.
There- Agenda item number 14, public hearing on agenda item 14 is today. Proponents, please.
I'm here, Kyle Anderson, representing Anderson Restaurant Group.
Okay, and your address?
4919 Underwood.
Thank you. And you're here to just answer any questions?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve.
Second, roll call.
Gurnett.
Oh, you got a light? Oh, I'm sorry.
Festerson.
Pete?
Thank you, Mr. President. So Kyle, we talked yesterday a little bit about Bela Rose.
We did.
And the new restaurant you're going to do here in Dundee, right?
Correct.
So this is the renovation of the old Maxwell Walker office building.
That's correct.
And it is going to receive, sounds like substantial renovation, new bay windows and all those things. And
Yes.
do you want to explain a little bit just your concept for what you're going to do there?
We're going to be an upscale contemporary restaurant. We're going to have, the cuisine's going to have roots in France and Italy. Techniques, it won't be limited to that kind of cuisine. It'll have global influences. The menu will be very eclectic. We're going to focus on small plates, smaller portions, so people can kind of build their own tasting menu. We'd like to have a really nice beverage menu, lots of fine wines.
Great. And it's a on-sale liquor license only?
Correct.
For a restaurant?
Correct.
And you hope to be open about when?
October,
Great.
hopefully.
Well, I think it sounds like a nice addition to Dundee, and people will be, I think, excited to see that building get reused and have another positive addition there, so we wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Mr. Gurnett.
Thank you. Kyle, I'm back. The council has provided a criminal history of each applicant.
Correct.
And I've noticed some things that concern me here. For an operation of a liquor license, you've had a few incidents where you've been on the opposite side
Sure.
of the fence.
Yes.
Tell me what's changed in your life that none of these things would happen again. I'm sure I don't need to repeat them.
Right. No.
Share with us how things have changed.
I have definitely done some things that I'm not proud of when I was an adolescent. Since then, I've graduated culinary school and worked at some of the finest restaurants in the United States, like Charlie Trotter's and Danielle. Also V. Mertz here in Omaha. I've opened a restaurant in California called Slow with myself, my wife, and a business partner. I got married last year. I have a 4-month-old daughter over there. And
Adorable.
Quite a bit has changed in, about 15 years since, I think, my past arrest.
I had some concerns. I wasn't going to support this in the beginning, but I am willing to give somebody a chance. Looks like, and it's been quite a while. Typically,
It has been.
when you get married and you have children,
It's a life changer.
very much so. So I will. It's difficult when I look either with just one entry or several entries. Having been in my other life, having to respond to different types of calls at liquor establishments or places that have liquor licenses. And I need to be convinced that you're going to be cooperative. In the unlikely event something would happen at your place, that you would need to cooperate with law enforcement and be that part that you need to be under the auspices of that particular license.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. I think that'll do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion second.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
It's
do.
been moved and seconded. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
14 is adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Item number 15, Eat the Worm, 1213 Howard Street, catering, liquor license and application, O location, they presently hold a Class C liquor license.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 is today. Proponents, please.
My name's Lance Swain, Eat the Worm, 1211 Howard Street. Here to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? False. Okay. Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Lance, if you could come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had some issues with your establishment last Tuesday that involved an extensive response from our police resources. And whether they were in the old market, which is where you are, or even outside of the old market, when you have that kind of police response to an incident of that magnitude, and the fact that you're in a tourist area, and it's during the College World Series, where the eyes of many parts of our country are on Omaha, I would hope that you would understand that has our full attention.
Sure.
And so we've heard, and when police actually come, who are tasked with the command of that part of the city, and take their time, not just this afternoon to be here, and there's 2 of them here today, but then also to share with me before today what happened, I'm sure you can understand the level of concern that that would raise with me personally and probably with other council members as well. About your ability to control the operation that you have, the nature of your relationship with the police, particularly the command staff. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to be requesting a layover in light of what I've heard of over 200 people outside of your place that are taking the equestrian unit to force break up the people. When I heard that your security guard, one person in a T-shirt, had been asking for the police to be called and they hadn't been called earlier. I hear all those things, and I hear now the presence of known gang members frequenting your place. It seems to me that we need to do something here to be proactive so that your business doesn't devolve further and ruin the old market as a tourist destination in our city, and really a bright spot that's something we can be proud of.
Sure.
So I've got the police command staff, and I have Tom Mumgard and Will Acosta here from the law department. And after I get done making a motion to lay over this item, I'd like you to huddle out over the bridge outside of this room and arrange a date and time and place where you can get together with them and they can implement some written measures about your management, control, and security so that you don't become a bad neighbor.
Sure.
And that we wouldn't have to look at your certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
So that you can show going forward you're serious about not being a problem, but a partner with the city, keeping the old market a good place. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
Motion to lay over 3 weeks.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to lay over 3 weeks. No more lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
15 is laid over 3 weeks. Item number 16. Who Hut Mongolian Grill requests permission to appoint Jeffrey Cox, manager of their location at 9900 South 72nd Street, 17660 Wright Street, and 2101 North 120th Street.
Is that one 16?
That's number 21. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Read
16.
21 and it's 16.
Yeah.
Forgot the back of the page.
Rich, how you doing?
Kirk
I
Curry's.
don't give a bad time. I know.
1028. I hate the worm.
eat the worm.
1028 South 72nd Plaza. Request permission to appoint Allison Dick, manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 16 is today. Proponents, please.
16.
16.
Item 16.
Okay. Jeff Cox, 5004 Fountain Drive, Papillion, Nebraska. So Who Hot Mongolian Grill.
Well, we're going to do the
We're
other
going to do
one.
item 16.
You'll be
Okay,
able-
I
you'll
just
be able-
heard Who Hot
Yeah,
Mongolian
you
Grill.
heard. Yeah, we'll get to you. Why don't you have a seat up front here? We'll get to you in a minute. This one is item
21.
16. This is
Allison Dick.
Allison Dick.
There we go.
Looks a little more like that. No offense, Jeff.
Oh, that's all right.
Go ahead. Proponents, please, for number 16.
I'm Allison Dick, and for Curry Fine Indian Restaurant, and my address is 6235 Karen Street.
Thank you. And you're here to answer any questions, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
16 is approved, 7-0. Thank you. Item number 17, Embassy Suites, Downtown Old Market, 555 South 10th Street. Request permission to appoint James Crawford, manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Jim Crawford, representing MC Suites, 555 South 10th Street, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
17 is approved, 7-0. Item number 18, Fox and Hound English Pub and Grill, 506 North 120th Street. Request permission to appoint Brian Shields, manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 18 is today. Proponents, please.
Brian Shields, Fox and Hound, 506 North 120th Street. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
18 is approved, 7-0. Item number 19, Rojas Mexican Grill and Margarita Bar, 17010 Wright Plaza. Request permission to appoint Christopher Dalton, manager.
Item number 18 is up for public hearing today. Proponents, please.
Christopher Dalton, 17010 Wright Plaza, Roja Mexican Grill. Here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. No light. Mr. Gannett.
Chris? You probably heard before that we get a criminal history on everybody. And the offense that's listed here has to do with alcohol. Share with us, it happened back in 2011, share with us how things have changed for you.
Since then, I mean, I myself have gotten engaged. I have a 3-year-old son at home. So really, you know, my life is consisting of work and making sure that I'm maintaining things there and following, you know, the rules and the way things should be done. I have worked for several restaurants within the company, both down here in the old market and out west with my name on the liquor license, so kind of understand the importance of it. I've taken a couple classes to better prepare not only myself but my staff as well with handling customers and making sure we're handling liquor properly.
And in the unlikely event something would happen, where law enforcement or first responders would have to be on scene, cooperation, of course, on your part would be to the fullest, I would assume?
Most definitely.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
19 is approved, 7-0. Item number 20, Old Chicago, 1109-1111 Harney Street. Request permission to appoint Sean Lamb, manager.
Agenda item number 20, public hearing today. Proponents, please.
Sean Lamb, Old Chicago, here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
Moved and seconded. No lights. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls. Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
20 is approved, 7-0. Item number 21 is the Who Hut Mongolian Grill. The three of them, one is at 990 South 72nd Street, 17660 Wright Street, and 2101 North 120th Street, all requesting permission to appoint Jeffrey Cox, manager.
Public hearing on agenda items number 21, A and B today. Proponents, please.
Jeff Cox, 5004 Fountain Drive, Papillion, Nebraska.
And I assume
So
you're here to
any
answer.
questions? Yep.
Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. Long time, Jeff.
It's good to see you, Rich.
About time for breakfast.
Yeah, it is. It's
And
been
I
a
know
long time.
you're in charge of all of these?
And the two in Lincoln.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things are going well?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Good seeing you.
Staying busy. Good seeing you, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will see you for breakfast, so I'll
Okay.
come by. So, thanks.
Move.
No further lights. Been moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
21 is approved 7-0. We will take items 22 through 25 as one case. They're all Walmart stores appointing different managers. 22 is Walmart at 5018 Ames Avenue requesting permission to appoint Tiffany Witt. 23 is the store at 18201 Wright Street, William Cotner. And 24 is the Walmart at 16960 West Maple Road, Stephen Farver. 25 is the one at 12850 L Street, Todd Van Essen.
Public hearing on agenda items 22 through 25 are today. Proponents, please.
Angela Palmer here representing store 5141
Move over a little bit by the mic.
To the mic, please.
There.
on 16960 West Maple.
Okay.
William Cottier, 18201 Wright Street.
Tiffany Witt, Walmart, 3151 on 5018 Ames Avenue.
My name's Scott Susi, and I'm the new store manager over at the 5018 Ames Avenue, Walmart.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Just, Mr. I'll go ahead. Thank you. Just wanted to first of all make sure that that the news that I heard was correct, that all the Walmart stores around the country are going to take out their Confederate flags.
That is correct. We actually have internal memos that come to us. That is an extreme issue for us. We are pulling those today.
You are to be commended. Thank you all for that. No other lights. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett. Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
22 through 25 are approved 7-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed consent agenda shall be taken up by City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 26 and 27 were held on June 16, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Brown.
Gurnett. Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
26 through 27 are passed 7-0. We're going to remove item number 34 from the consent agenda.
Public hearings on agenda items numbers 28 through 33, 35 through 41 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name and address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Festus.
Mr. President, just a quick note on number 29. I'll turn my thanks for my microphone. I still don't have the buttons down since leaving the chair there. On number 29, which is, it's good that it's on consent, but I know we have a couple people here in support of the item, so I want to give them a chance to speak if they'd like. But this is the Benson Business District renovation project we've been working on for several years now, and it's a $1.9 million renovation of the business district, sort of the Benson version of what we did in Dundee, starting here in 3 weeks, once this is approved today. And I want to invite Shelley Keel up from the Benson Business Improvement District, since they've been so involved with this and a great partner in helping get this done. And I think we need to realize that, but for the Business Improvement District, we would not have been able to raise the private funds we did raise to get this accomplished. Probably the most important thing being they committed $20,000 per year to maintain the project once we build it, and have otherwise done some really great things for the area that's achieved some great momentum. So, Ms. Keel, now is your opportunity to talk about the project and what you have going on.
Shelley Keel, 319 South 53rd Street, and grandchildren are a petri dish, so excuse my voice today. This has been a tremendous ride. Thanks to Councilman Festerson and the BID, we have been able to raise an additional $1.2 million of private money, in order to bring this project to fruition. One of the things that we're actually quite excited about is our intent, of course, to double the amount of light that is on Maple Street and also in the community areas that we're renovating. That's a big deal when you're talking about safety, you're talking about pedestrian attendance. Being able to increase the number of streetlights we have is important because they are very expensive. Not only will this improve the physical appearance of the Benson Business Improvement District, but it will also improve the safety and security of the district. We will be encouraging many, many more people to come down to Benson than already come there with the improvement in the sidewalks and the pedestrian nodes. And we know that when you have more eyes on the street, it becomes a safer place. It improves the health of the area because when you have a place for people to walk, then you are improving their health. So besides just improving physical appearance of the area, improving the economics of the area, we're doing a number of things that we believe that will be very good for not just businesses, but also for the neighborhood surrounding the Benson Business Improvement District. It's been a little bit of time in order to get to this place. I think we originally thought maybe we might get it started in January or February when we were about a year out, but we're very, very excited to have this happen beginning in July, and we expect to have a very big celebration when we get this all completed. And if you have any other further questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. And I think the other point of doing a project like this is to drive further private investment with the public investment we're about to do, and there's an example of that on our agenda already today, too, on first reading. Another $15 million worth of private investment happening at 60th and Northwest Radial that'll start this October that I think looked very favorably upon what we're doing and saw the excitement that's building there, and now is also going to build a brand new Great Western Bank branch, 100 new apartments on the top there that haven't been invested in Benson in probably 40 years.
At least 40 years.
So, yeah, very exciting time.
And it's very exciting because this is a mixed-use project that you're referring to. We're not just going to throw an apartment building up. We're not just, it's just not going to be rebuilding a bank, but they've come together to combine those uses. And so we will have bank services as part of this and living spaces as another part of this. And they have also worked with you and the BID to ensure that it is part of the Business Improvement District as opposed to sitting with its face in a different direction, so that people will be very, very well able to access not only the living spaces, but also the businesses that are in downtown Benson.
And that reminds me, they're also a sponsor of this year's Indy Run, which happens July 11th. And so if you want to check your YouTubes on the Indy Run, make sure you go to indyrun.com. And you'll see a YouTube of me and Ben Gray starting tomorrow morning, I think. Another challenge issued.
And you're running, right?
Yeah. I think, as I said, it's just City Council District 1 and City Council District 2, which is first place and second place, right?
That's right. Another part of this that's a very neat thing is there have been many, many different parts of creating public spaces where people will be able to gather, improving safety, etc. But a part of this that I think is important to point out, too, is the willingness of OPPD to work with us all to move the overhead power lines on Military Avenue, to relocate them. So you will be able to see a community space that has no overhead lines. The really ugly poles that are going to be on that street will be gone also. And again, just another partner in the work that we have done to bring this all together.
Where we do the farmers markets and outdoor concerts, and that's, a very important feature of what we're about to do.
Got it.
I also want to recognize Greg Armstrong, who's here. He's with Swain Construction, who we're about to award the contract to as the low bidder. So we look forward to working with them. They did a great job for us in Dundee, too. And Greg, if you want to say anything.
Greg Armstrong, Swain Construction, 6002 North 89. We're glad to be in Benson.
We're glad to have you, too. And I know we'll have a pre-construction meeting shortly with not only internally, but with neighbors and property owners, and hope to start construction in 3 weeks, right?
July 13th.
Mm-hmm. And as Councilman Jerem notes, strong SEB participation on this program too in Benson, so we appreciate that as well.
Sure.
And now I need to stop talking because he wants you to get back down to 16th Street to keep working down there, right?
Can I be excused? At least I got Mr. Jerem's permission to be excused, right?
Yeah.
I'll leave on that.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Gurnett.
Did I push my button on this one?
No.
Or were you hold over it?
No, he's waiting for the next one.
Disregard that light.
Okay. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. No, as you can tell, I do enjoy breakfast. Just to let you know, those of us from West Omaha, this last week and a half, I've been down to Joe's and Leo's and Benson, just to let you know, having breakfast, just to let you know I'm supporting your part of the town. Thank you.
Well, that's good. They're going to need that support when I whip Councilmember Festerson. Thank you.
We need a motion.
Motion, please. Was there a motion?
I think they're all moved now.
They are now.
Motion approved.
There we
It's
go.
been moved and seconded. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett.
This is everything except for 34.
Everything except 34.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
28 through 33 and 35 through 41 are adopted, 7-0. Now, item number 34, a resolution that the city accepts the attached U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Cooperative Agreement Amendment to continue activities under the record of decision for the Omaha lead site preparation pertaining to soil testing and remediation through May 31st, 2022.
Public hearing on agenda item number 34 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. James Thiel, Omaha Planning Department. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has worked the last 15 years on remediating soil that is lead contaminated in the eastern portion of our city. They have planned to leave Omaha at the end of 2015. When they would leave Omaha, they would cease their outreach efforts, but would continue to clean up lots as people requested that. We felt there needs to be continued outreach in order to make sure that all of the contaminated properties in Omaha are cleaned up in order to protect the children of Omaha. So we began discussions with the Environmental Protection Agency, and we're able to secure their commitment of funding. This is up to, I want to emphasize, up to $31 million in round numbers, 7-year time period. First portion will be about $6.6 million. It is on a reimbursement basis. All the city's expenses associated with the cleanup, staff, consultants is paid for by the federal government. During that time period, the city, with partnership with Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance, will undertake outreach to those individuals who have not responded as yet to EPA. It's approximately 1,000 lots that still remain to be cleaned up. And so we would make an efforts to contact those property owners and then arrange for the soil to be tested if it hasn't already been tested, clean up, resodding, and anything else that's needed to be done to the soil within that lot. The project will, I think, result in, over that time period, a high portion of those 1,000 properties being completed. It may be that we don't get to all of them from the standpoint of people are unwilling still to allow the cleanup of their property, in which case we have no liability. In other words, that the federal government will not come back and say, why couldn't you get the last one? We will document our efforts to reach people and to try to convince them of the advantages as well as how important it is for the city of Omaha. With that, I'll answer any questions. I do have some professional staff as well as a representative from Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance here to answer the more technical questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Gurnett.
Thank you. James, you mentioned during the reimbursement part, how often would the city be sending in their bills to the EPA? Is that like is that done quarterly? Is it done
No, it would be on a monthly basis. Yes.
Okay. And at a meeting this morning to sort of at a briefing, did that or did I not hear that, let's say there's a month that goes by that there's been no actual property cleanup, would the EPA be billed for anything that's administratively done during that 30-day period for reimbursement?
Yes, they would be. Remember, we're doing outreach and education as part of this, so that work will continue on all the way through.
Okay. And lastly, at this briefing this morning, I'm still not convinced if the federal government, with its power, with the EPA, can't get onto a property, those 1,000 properties, how do we expect the city to get onto those properties?
Well,
I mean, the EPA had warrant power where they can show an official document and come in onto the property whether you say no or not. That was with under the plan that we just went through these number of years. That was made clear at the beginning. How can this, if they can't get in, how are we going to get in?
Well, a number of the properties are absentee property owners, and so we will attempt to contact them. We do have a 7-year time period here, and so we'll be able to do a little more research, perhaps, than they were able to see if we can contact those individuals. We also may have some people that just plain don't want government on their property. We're not going to be able to solve that problem. But I think there's going to be a lot of people, particularly there may be some elderly people who have concerns that they don't have any children of this age, but we want to be able to talk to them, and we will be persistent. We'll be back to talk to them about the advantages, number one, to your neighborhood. What happens when you sell your property? What are your heirs going to be left with at additional cost? And talk to them a little bit about some of those advantages to them as well as to their heirs. And perhaps they have grandchildren now, and so now they're interested. So we'll slowly over time keep consistently working with people, talking to them. We also, I think, are very fortunate we've been able to work with Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance, who has an outreach program, and we want to use their services together, working with neighborhood organizations to try to get the message out. This isn't big bad government. We're trying to help you in order to help the community.
Was what you just described, did the EPA in their partnership with the city at first, when they first come in to do this, did they ever take that approach to your knowledge? I mean, the part about the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, and heirs maybe receiving a piece of property that wasn't abated?
It's correct.
To me, that's important.
Yes, they did continue to make contacts with people. Whether they spent the amount of time that I think we may need to in some cases, I don't think so. I would also point out that early on, this was a program that was pretty much run by the federal government. Yes, they had input into from the public regarding the record of decision, which outlines the protocols and everything to be used. They did have that, but I don't really think they engaged the community to help with addressing these issues and to help convince their neighbors, if you will, of the need for this type of service, and it's advantageous to you. I think that we'll have a better opportunity because we're Omahans. We're from Omaha. We talk the same language, and I think that'll give us a real advantage together with our partners.
There were options in or out at the beginning with this EPA program, correct?
I'm sorry?
There were options where you could opt in or out of this?
Yes, that's correct. The EPA would simply have sat around and waited for people to say, I'm ready to clean up my property now. They wouldn't have marketed, they wouldn't have gone out knocking on doors, they wouldn't have talked to people. We didn't feel that that was a very effective way to really address the problems. Are we going to get 1,000 lots cleaned up? I don't know, but I'll guarantee you we're going to get a high percentage of those lots cleaned up.
Well, speaking of the number, what was the number that's cleaned up? Do you have that on top of your head?
Just in round numbers, there were about 40,000 lots tested, parcels I should say. If I understand correctly, that was approximately 15,000 were cleaned up over that 10-year time period.
Okay, so we're giving
I'm sorry,
7 years.
15-year time period.
15-year time period. So we're giving 7 years to do 1,000.
That's correct.
And as long as we're able to explain all of our efforts through documentation, if we got to 999 and that one was a bugaboo, and we explain that, we're not going to be held in a stranglehold from the federal government. That's how I understand.
We certainly asked that question as well, but no, we would not be held accountable by the federal government. We will show when we made contacts, how many contacts we made, and so on, to make sure that it's clear to the federal government as well as the taxpayers of Omaha that we made all sorts of efforts over time to try to reach people. I think that another thing that we bring, if I could just kind of step back to your previous question, is that during that time period, EPA entered into a contract with the city to prepare a lead database that shows every parcel where it stands in terms of, has it been cleaned up yet? Was it tested? Was it had gotten clearance? Was it finally released by the EPA? We're seeing more and more usage of that by people interested in buying property as well as people interested in renting property. That's a great tool, provide an incentive for somebody. They understand now that people are out looking, and they're not going to be buying my property unless the soil's cleaned up. So we think that's another little hammer, I should say, that we have over the past 3 years been able to develop.
And since this started a number of years ago, the part that never really changed was the fact that the abatement process that the EPA provided was free to the homeowner, correct?
That's correct. Okay. They were told that, but whether they heard it, I don't know. One of the things I think that we can do a better job of, there are certain required documents, and if I can say it this way, they are written in federalese. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to sit down and make sure we explain what it really is. If you get a document that you don't understand because it's written in a language that we're not familiar with, you're likely to perhaps throw it away. So I think we can do that follow-up. We have community development staff that will go out, meet with people, talk to people, and again, with an intensified education program, we think we can reach more and more people.
Well, I think the planning department and the staff there, and with the partnerships that are in place and that could possibly even be expanded over the next 7 years, or maybe the first 3 years, as you alluded to, has sort of answered my last question a little bit better, because I walked out of the meeting, I felt the question was unanswered, but you've brought some additional points to the table, which I think, one, are very important that I already mentioned. Two, what you're talking about someone not wanting to purchase a property because And the fact that the program, I mean, maybe the city of Omaha could do a better sales job of free than what's been happening. Now, I understand the numbers are quite high for the number of parcels that needed to be abated. But that bothered me about if the federal government, even under the face of having a warrant going on the property, how would even the city get onto that property? And I think you've answered my question now. So I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate my colleagues' indulgence on this. But I was not convinced this morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jerem.
Mr. Thiel, thank you for your testimony and your glowing optimism. I hope you understand my skepticism in the aftermath of the re-energized program and the colossal government failure that was for a significant period of time. And the skepticism that the taxpayers of Omaha might have in terms of the government taking on, after that experience, something, again, big in scale, hearing goals in the 1,000 parcel range, not hearing specific goals today to be outlined, thereby not having a number to have accountability to the taxpayers as to what does success look like, and not adding any staff, at least for 6 months, during the startup of this program. So what can you tell the taxpayers of Omaha, and me particularly, to address that question? And I have others for you.
Sure.
Why will this be any different?
Well, during that 6-month kind of a shadow period, if you will, is our staff will be working with EPA as they go about to make sure that we follow all the procedures that are required by EPA. That'll give us a knowledge base, whereas previous programs, the one that you alluded to, there really was not that support there. Secondly, there is a defined protocol of exactly how you go about this. We're not developing a new program for soil remediation in terms of the actual work itself. The other thing I think is very important. We have a very, very experienced staff who are familiar and have had experience in working with hazardous waste reductions in terms of lead-based paint as well as soils. So I think we've got a trained crew ready to start on day one. We're not developing something new.
So 1,000 parcels, 7 years, that's 146 a year. If I give you 10 months, what's that, 15 a month, roughly?
Approximately, yeah.
Tell me what success is.
Well, well, if we can do 15 a month, I would call that success, because we will achieve our goal at the end of that 7-year time period. Now then, I would suspect that we're going to have a higher number early on in the program, as we start working with people who are more difficult to talk to, it may slow down a little bit. So we don't know that yet, but that'd be just my supposition. I think the other thing that we can present to the public is, here's the efforts we made, 1, 2, 3, 4, on that property. Here's how many times we contacted another person. Here's what we've done in order to educate people. Here's what we've done in terms of soil testing, and so on. So I think we can clearly outline the steps that will show the public that the money is being expended properly.
Would you produce monthly reports outlining not only your contacts, number of contacts, number of parcels which have agreed to accept work, number of parcels for which contracts and work is underway, and then a completion report?
Let me check here. If I remember correctly, it's a quarterly report that we prepare for the EPA. So it's a quarterly report that would have that information. We could be glad to make that available to the City Council.
And since you're doing a quarterly report, you probably take it each month and then break it into a quarter? Is that right?
That's right. I think, as you can well imagine, things go beyond 1 month, and so, yes.
Okay. The administrative built-in cost, Mr. Thomas from your office was kind enough to email me 16%, which I think is, I wouldn't quarrel. That's a number that sounds reasonable to me. You have 7.5 staff positions that could be made available for this. You have 3 current filled positions, correct?
That's correct.
And as I understand Mr. Thomas, he said for the first 6 months, there will be no additional staff.
Right.
While you evaluate what you're doing.
Well, what we'll do during that time period is we'll know a little bit more about what we need to do. Our goal is not to hire a bunch of people and have them sit around playing cards. We're going to hire the number we need to get the job done. If that's 6, that's what we hire. If it's 7, that's what we hire. If it's a half a person, we'll add that one too.
Another area that it's been, I'm told, a long sore spot, but it's something we've been talking about here a lot lately and holding everyone accountable. So that includes the city. If we're holding our contractors accountable, it should be the city too. What will this program be doing to engage in economic inclusivity efforts in terms of either expanding capacity of those who are in the field or offering opportunity to those who are not yet in it?
That's a very good question. First off, it's a federal grant, so in that grant they have specific goals for minority business enterprises as well as women-owned business enterprises. Of course, with this, in terms of the cities or emerging small business, we'll have a goal set for that. One of the things we want to do is take a look at each project and look at the various types of skills needed, see what our emerging small businesses have available in terms of expertise. It does require for the general contractor to have a lot of experience in training people on his staff or her staff, but there's great opportunity, we feel, and we've kind of preliminarily identified the opportunities for emerging small business in terms of soil testing, hauling of the soil, laying of sod, replacing landscaping, and for 30 days the new sod is watered. So we see some opportunities in that area. During this first 6-month time period, that's one of the things we're going to be looking at is, are there other opportunities as well along the way for emerging small businesses, and what percentage then should we set? Should it be higher than we've initially thought? But that'll give us a good benchmark.
Will you include that in your quarterly report?
Yes.
Finally, if I could ask Cara Eastman to come down.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cara Eastman, 5006 Underwood. That's where I work, not where I live. And I'm the president and CEO of Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance.
So, Cara, you're weighing heavily in my mind in terms of the Cara Eastman seal of approval, so to speak, of this approach of having the city take this over. And it's passed muster with you in terms of giving this an opportunity. And I know you've had prior dealings with the city and trying to get code enforcement inspectors, the Kresge Foundation, and building in benchmarks and accountability into contracts you've had with the city to address your concerns in terms of the city's ability to deliver on its promises. Would you be willing to share publicly on the record here with why you're convinced that we should, after the re-energize, take this leap of faith here with this program?
Absolutely. So I have had the privilege of working with the EPA in Omaha since 2006 and was actively involved in the community advisory group. Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance was created to generate a comprehensive response to addressing lead poisoning in children. And the city has been an active player with us, city planning in particular. And the people that you have outlined who are going to oversee this program are by far the best experts in town in this kind of work. They've had the experience of working with the EPA, not only on interior lead-based paint hazards that they run through the lead hazard control grant that they have, but also in collaboration with the EPA on the soil program and the exterior paint stabilization program. So what we're seeing is that the EPA has now entrusted city planning with carrying out the responsibilities that they were going to be doing. It makes sense to bring this down to a local level. You have the right people in place here at city planning to be able to implement the program. And as James Thiel said, there are a number of opportunities that were missed by the EPA that now the city is ready to take on. So one of the issues that James didn't address is our language barriers. The EPA sent out the majority of their correspondence in English. I wouldn't even call it English, to be honest. And so it was difficult for people to understand what that correspondence meant. Also, if you get a letter from the EPA in the mail, I sometimes throw those letters away. I throw away a lot of letters. Like, we don't respond that way. Mail isn't an effective communication tool. So the city, in partnership with Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance, is outlining ways that we can actually reach out to people in the community the right way, to explain the program to them in the right way so that they will cooperate. So I think it's a prime opportunity. I feel like the city is lucky that the EPA has now decided to move forward in this response, and it helps us to get to a more comprehensive program. I will remind you that the way that children get exposed to lead in Omaha, in the majority of time, and this is through our county health data, is by interior lead-based paint hazards, not exterior. So the fact that we're putting all this money into the exterior, that's an EPA solution to a problem. We get that. We're going to move forward with it and take that money and be as creative as possible with it and find a way so that this actually makes an impact in our community. I'm not saying that we haven't already seen an impact, but there's a lot more that we could be doing, and the city is absolutely the right place to put this money.
Thank you. With that, with the assurances, we'll be getting the quarterly reports. I take it this will be routed to the Planning Committee? James?
Yes, we do meet monthly with the Planning Committee, and I think that would be an appropriate way to distribute the information.
Okay, fair enough. With those assurances, that doesn't mean I'm any less skeptical, but it means that I'm willing to give this a chance. And I think one of the lessons learned for me from that re-energizes was trying to get in early on the accountability side. And so it doesn't mean that I don't trust you. It just means that getting the information early from those who are, in these positions like we are, will help address, I think, or spot early detection, so to speak, if problems are arising.
Sure. I mean, I think the difference, too, with Re-Energize is a new program, as James said. This is a continuation of a program that's been going on in our city for a while, so people are used to it. I think this will just help to broaden the impact that we can make with these dollars. You should be skeptical. It's a strange program. I mean, the fact that we have this amount of money to address yards, which are very difficult to control, it's a strange program. We are by far the largest residential Superfund site in the nation. By far, meaning like most Superfund sites that are residential are 60, 80 properties, not 40,000. This is a strange take that EPA has made, but we're doing the best that we can with it. And I see a huge difference between this and Re-Energize, to be honest.
And in your efforts, in the city's efforts, at the funding levels that they are, will continue in terms of the vastly superior lead poisoning problem on the inside of, in most cases, rental properties for low-income children.
Absolutely. So the city is currently writing a grant to HUD to continue the lead hazard control program. The majority of the work that we do at Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance is trying to raise money and attention to fix the interiors of homes where our kids are getting poisoned. So there's a lot more work to be done. Happy to talk to you ad nauseum about that issue at any time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Festus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to be too repetitive here, but this is something that generated a lot of concern when it was originally designated a Superfund site, and appropriately so, given the health of our kids. And I think it's appropriate to spend some more time on this today. And secondarily, and as an editorial comment, I would say something of this importance and of this magnitude, $32 million, shouldn't appear on the City Council agenda in a consent format, nor should our first briefings be the day we were expected to vote on something like this. And I think that's part of the outgrowth of what we're experiencing here today with this conversation. But I want to get back to the content here that we discussed this morning. So, Mr. Thiel, 40,000 properties tested, 15,000 remediated, but still 1,000 to go. Would we say EPA lived up to what they said they would do in Omaha when this was first designated a Superfund site?
James Thiel, City Planning. Well, you're asking me to make a comment regarding another agency. I think that things could have been done in a better fashion early on. I think they made the effort that they thought was appropriate and tried the best they could. I think we can say that there has been some success and that a vast majority of properties that are possibly impacted were tested, and those that they found were cleaned up. So I guess I would say I think they did a good job. I think we can do better than the last ones.
And they always, from the start, had indicated they probably would exit in 2015. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that's what they're doing. So in that respect, and the way I understand it is the planning department took it upon themselves to proactively suggest to them how to address these remaining 1,000 properties, which I agree are still very concerning. I mean, look at the map, the concentration of them essentially everywhere, still east of 52nd Street, is very concerning in these residential areas. Even though lead-based paint is maybe an even bigger factor and of more concern at this point, today all we can talk about with this is, I think, the soil program. So is it accurate to say the planning department proactively talked about this plan to address these remaining 1,000 properties with them?
I think that would be a good way to describe it. EPA came in to talk to us about the exit and what they planned. We felt there was an opportunity to do better. The administration supported us in that, and we, over time, were able to kind of develop a program. It did take a little while as things bounced from the regional office to the national office and back and forth. If you're familiar with the federal government, you can understand what that may entail. We were able to find it that just earlier this month, get everything nailed down in terms of the type of a program. I do want to mention that although this is aimed at soil, the education portion, we get an opportunity to get into a house and talk about some of those other issues in a house that may need to be corrected as well. So we kind of have an opportunity, I think, to educate some people about the inside while we're looking at addressing the outside.
I'm supportive of the notion that we still need to get the rest of these 1,000 properties addressed. So I appreciate you all working on that with Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance to get that accomplished. And as you, I think, said in your opening remarks, to the City of Omaha, we hope we get all of them addressed, but either way, to the City of Omaha, there is not liability associated with taking this on, right?
That's correct. There's not liability. Everything that we're doing, we're being fully reimbursed for.
But it's also true to say, unless each of these properties is remediated, they will not be delisted, or Omaha will not be delisted as a Superfund site, because each property is its own Superfund site. Is that an accurate way of saying it?
I believe that's correct, Bill. That is correct, yes.
Which is also unusual.
It is a concern. We'd certainly like for Omaha to be totally delisted as a Superfund site. I would say one little advantage, if you will, is if they're still listed, when somebody buys that property, they're going to get stuck paying for the cost of it by themselves if it occurs, 20 years out. So it eventually will get cleaned up, but who knows what happens in that meantime. And that obviously is of concern of ours. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is that property owner will get a lot less for their property. So it's extremely foolish for somebody not to take advantage of free money.
It's their own financial self-interest to get this done.
That's right.
Because if they go to sell the property later, it'll have to get done.
I cannot imagine that a legitimate purchaser of property would not want to take care of that or require it. Certainly, if it were a house and there were a bank involved in providing a financing, they wouldn't get financing.
And have the 15,000 that were remediated, have those been removed from the Superfund site designation?
There is a process of removal. Bill, do you know?
Some have. I can't tell you.
Some of them have been, but it is a process. Once we complete our work, we turn in all the information to the Environmental Protection Agency. Remember that typically Superfund site may be just one property, very large property perhaps, but only one property. So here we're doing it piecemeal along the way. So EPA has had a tendency to do several properties at once rather than immediately. So yes, they are delisting them. Exactly where we're at in terms of that process, I don't know.
Okay, but we'll follow through on that with them, correct?
Yes.
Last thing I had, I think also for Kara Eastman, if you can come back down. I think Councilman Jerem covered most of the questions I was going to ask you too, but it does give me also comfort that Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance remains involved in this and will help make sure it goes well. My question for you is, I know you also monitor the health of kids, which is the whole point here, right? And have worked at periodic times to measure lead content in kids' blood levels. Can you comment on what you've seen in terms of any improvement over the time frame of this 15-year project?
Sure. Kara Eastman with Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance. What we're seeing is that the numbers of children with what used to be defined as an elevated blood level, and so I can give you a little bit of the background on that, where the CDC used to define a child as poisoned when they had 10 micrograms per deciliter of lead in their blood. Recently, the CDC lowered that to 5. And basically, there's no safe level of lead in a child's body. So the way that we've measured this historically is not a great way of doing that anyway. Traditionally, we've used kids as canaries in the coal mine to decide whether or not housing is safe, and we need to flip that model, and that's really what the city and Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance have been doing together. But what we're seeing is that on a national level, children's blood levels are declining. So we don't get a lot of kids in Omaha who have those higher levels of lead up in the 20 or 30s where they would need to be chelated. However, there's a lot of research out there now that shows that low levels of lead actually do more damage to a child in terms of IQ deficits and behavioral disorders, and even a relationship to violent criminal activity. There was a lot of news about that with regards to Freddie Gray in Baltimore. So what we know is that it takes the equivalent of 3 grains of sugar of lead to poison a child. It's a very small amount that enters a child's body, usually through hand-to-mouth behavior, which is why we're so focused on making sure that the houses are cleaned up. If we're bringing in soil, we want to make sure that we're addressing that as well, and that's part of the EPA program. The county's doing their part with the vacuum distribution program. We do our part with education and also some mitigation activity. So on a national level, in Omaha, we're seeing blood levels going down, but what does that really tell us? It's hard to say.
Okay. And so what we're talking about here is the tail end of the soil remediation in these properties. Can you speak a little bit to what we are doing and what we need to be doing for lead paint removal?
Sure. So the lead paint removal programs that we have in the city start with the city's lead hazard control program. That's a HUD-funded program. With the funds through that program, they're able to do about 80 homes a year, 100 homes a year?
Over a 3-year period, about
130 homes over 3 years. Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance also focuses on this. So we encourage people to use low-cost solutions because we don't have $15,000, $20,000 per property to give to people. We go in with maybe $1,500 or $2,000 and help people address interior lead-based paint hazards, usually by teaching people where chipping and peeling paint is and how to address it. Ideally, we'd be replacing all the windows in our city because that's the majority of where we see lead hazards. Ideally, we would have a lead-safe children's ordinance that requires a lead dust test prior to moving children into a home. There are a lot of things that we can be doing and should be doing to protect children in our city. We have 84,000 homes built before 1978. That's the year lead-based paint was banned. We've got some work to do, and we have significant substandard housing. Love to take any one of you on a tour of some of the houses that we see. I think you'd be shocked to see the third world housing we have in our city. It's pretty deplorable, and it's time to take action. And this program actually gets to some of that because it does allow the city to go in, and while we're talking about soil, as James Thiel said, we will also be educating people about other hazards.
Potentially 84,000 homes. That puts 1,000 properties in context, doesn't it, that we're talking about here today?
Sure.
And I think it's also true, there is risk when the lead's on the paint and it's chipping that it recontaminates the soil just replaced, correct?
Right. So the EPA is interested in 2 things. They want to protect their remedy. They want to make sure that the yards don't get recontaminated. And they've been talking with us in the city about strategies that we can use to prevent that in the future. They also want to drive people to use the lead registry, which I said before this morning is the best lead registry we have in the nation. Bill Lukash developed it, and he's done a phenomenal job with that. I go to conferences, and people are overwhelmingly impressed by it. So those are the two things that the EPA is really concerned with. The 1,000 properties is just the continuation of their programs, but there's more to be done, and allowing the city to do that is a great step because the city really understands what the community needs. And again, the partnership is fantastic. We will make sure that the outreach gets to the places it needs to be. We will partner, as we do now, with everybody in town to disseminate this information and make sure that it's not just certain people that have access to this information. We want to make sure that people of all cultures, of all backgrounds, understand the dangers that are within their home and how they can prevent things.
Thank you. Look forward to our ongoing work together on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Gurnett.
Do you need me anymore?
Thank you. James? I know at the meeting this morning, I know I got a little loud, I might have been a little testy, but in all these years in public service, I have seen agencies higher on the food chain slap governmental agencies or punch them in the gut because of one thing that we overlooked or that we didn't do or whatever. And I just don't want it to happen to Omaha because of all the hard work that's been put into this. I wanted to make sure that we took this off of consent, we have this conversation that we're having, and let the public know that it has been cussed and discussed, okay? And I can't speak for the rest of my colleagues, but I know I would like to have a list of those that are, of that 1,000 that are in District 4. Can that be produced?
I'm sure we can from our database, right, Bill? Yes, we can provide
They're all
that.
going like this in the back, okay?
Yeah,
We can
James
make
Steele,
that
City
happen.
Planning.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, let me make a couple of comments, and then, I have a question or two. And I want to dovetail a little bit on what Ms. Eastman was talking about when she talked about lead poisoning. Lead poisoning, once a child is lead poisoned, and that's a younger child, once they're poisoned, that there's no coming back from that. And the propensity for violence and the inability or the lack of capacity for training in the classroom and so forth becomes very difficult for teachers. And again, this is almost irreversible. I don't know anything at this point that would suggest that there is any way that you can reverse this. So, and I was deeply disappointed when I went to the legislature one year, and all of the young people that are allegedly on that are on Medicaid rather, there's a certain number of boxes that you check off for individuals who have, make sure that they've got their ear, nose, and throat, all of the other vaccinations that they should have. And it was surprising and disappointing to find out that in the Medicaid process, that there were a number who were checking the box, but were not actually testing the young people. I was very disappointed when I heard that. I think that's been corrected at the legislature now, but it seemed for a while that there was not the interest in addressing lead the way it needs to be addressed and the way it's being addressed now. But there's been a lot of damage that's been done, and we need to recognize that. And the fact that we have these 1,000 homes, I think we need to address that. I'm going to do the same thing in District 2. I want a list of those in District 2 that have said no up to now. And perhaps maybe after you all go visit them, I'll go visit them as well. And we'll see what happens with that. I also wanted to address a little bit the accountability portion that Mr. Jerem talked about. And Mr. Thiel, if you could, There are a number of individuals, back up a little bit, because one of the things that when the EPA first came in, one of the things that was supposed to happen that did not happen to the extent that it was supposed to, and a lot of people felt like it was a broken promise, was the number of minority firms that would be developed and that could build capacity and grow through this program to do some other things. With that as a backdrop, how are we going to Mr. Jerem's point about accountability, we know that there are a number of individuals out there now, many of them unemployed, who have been trained in doing this. How do they make connections with your office to either, demonstrate that they have been trained, or you talked about this morning, perhaps maybe retraining on some level. How do we make that how does that connection happen?
James Steele, City Planning. Once we get beyond the initial first 6 months, starting January 1st is when we have complete control of the operation in Omaha. One of the things that we will be doing during the time period is arranging for there to be training. It's called HAZWOPER. It's Hazardous Waste Operator is what it stands for. That's a 40-hour course, and we can provide that to individuals. There is an annual 8-hour course that's required each year. Again, that's something that we can provide. If somebody has perhaps let their certificate lapse, then there's an opportunity for them to become recertified. As I mentioned, I can't remember which council member I talked to, but I mentioned earlier this morning, and I think one of the things that is helpful is that if we can get people trained in the HAZWOPER certification, that offers them an opportunity when they decide to move to another job, perhaps for hopefully more money. They have an additional credential to put on there. Additionally, we'll provide some training as it relates to first aid and CPR as well as part of that. So we'll provide some additional training. Hopefully that'll allow people to move up. Also, it'll provide a trained workforce for the contractors who are doing the actual work. When you talk about the issue of economic inclusivity, we're thinking in terms of the Emerging Small Business Program, the ESB program. And as I mentioned, we've kind of identified some subcontracting opportunities. We think that there are opportunities for ESB contractors. We also, during this 6-month transition phase, we're going to look to see what else there is. Is there something that we did not see from our end at this point, to see what else we can come up with on that?
Okay, the concern that I have is making sure there's a connection between those who already have the skills and just need a little bit of training or a remedial course, and those that don't have the training that have to go through the process that you talked about. But again, there are a number of individuals out there that saw this as an opportunity. It didn't develop like they thought it would, but they saw it as an opportunity, and some of them have been trained, and making that connection is what I want to make sure we do at some level. At least, being able to call someone and say, look, I've already done this training, I've already...
Absolutely. We can start preparing a database. People receive training through us and do an outreach to see if there are other people out there, and be glad to provide that to the contractors who are looking for employees with certain skill levels. Now, given the volume of work, I don't think there's going to be a business that's going to be able to be set up strictly on this. So I think the opportunities are in the subcontracting activities.
Okay. And could you let us know, you will keep us informed quarterly or whatever, however you do that. Just
absolutely.
If you can include that piece into it as well, I'd appreciate that. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. No further lights. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Gurnett? Yes. Jerem? Yes. Milton? Yes. Pauls? Yes. Thompson? Yes. Festerson? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
34 is adopted, 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7F, agenda items number 42 through 43 shall be laid over for 3 weeks for publication and public hearing. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7D, the public hearing On agenda items number 44 through 48 shall be held on the third reading. Ordinance on second reading. Item 49, ordinance declaring the necessity of acquiring private property for the purpose of constructing the 204th and Cumberland Drive intersection improvement project.
Public hearing on agenda item number 49 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 50, ordinance approving agreement with George Butler Associates to provide sewer system evaluation surveys to be identified being combined sanitary sewer system evaluation in the Little Papio Creek, or Papillion Creek site, sewer sheds.
Public hearing on agenda item number 50 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 51, ordinance approving agreement between the city and TREKK Design Group to provide sewer system evaluation surveys for the Missouri River sewer sheds.
Public hearing on agenda item number 51 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 52, ordinance to establish a new Class B flammable liquid storage district, B188 at 1001 South 10th Street, KETV Hearst Properties.
Public hearing on agenda item number 52 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Next
Item 53, ordinance to accept the bid of Alomar Uniforms.
I'm sorry. You had your light on. I'm sorry, Mr. Light. Number 52?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Is there someone here that can speak on this?
James Thiel.
James Thiel, City Planning.
I've had some questions in a local neighborhood group, and I didn't have the attachment available, and I know that some are watching. Just to clear this up, the flammable liquids, I know it's not in the form of the news that they're presenting, but that particular area, what is this in regards to for a Class B?
James Thiel, City Planning. Class B, this is a diesel fuel. Diesel is not very flammable, but it is something that we control to make sure that we know where the locations are for public safety. This would be used for emergency generators and things like that.
So in their plan for this rather huge project down on 10th Street, and a great project, they have some backup plans which would necessitate a Class B district for this particular development. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's very typical when you have a structure that you want to have backup power so that the lights stay on. I think perhaps in a TV station there might be even more necessary so they can stay on the air in the event of a storm or other emergency.
Okay. I think that's what the folks wanted to hear. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Item 53, I think.
53 is orders to accept the bid of Alomar Uniforms to provide firm price commitments per items for 2 years on Omaha Police Department standard uniform items.
Agenda item number 53 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7C, the public hearing on agenda items 54 through 55 shall be held on the second reading.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. No further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton?
Yes.
Pauls? Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
We are adjourned at 3:28.
God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shine.